Millions of jars labelled honey are anything but. And if you've been spreading it on your toast, stirring it into your tea, it could be silently affecting your gut, your liver, and your immune system. In today's video, we're exposing 12 of the worst honey brands sold in British supermarkets. Products that look pure on the label but failed the tests in the laboratory. And at the end, we'll reveal 5 of the cleanest, most trustworthy honey brands you can actually feel good about using. Plus, I'll show you how to spot fake honey in seconds just by reading the label. This is the honey truth they don't want you to hear. Let's start with number 1. Rowse blended honey. If there's one honey brand every British household recognises, it's Rowse. The iconic squeezy bottle, the friendly bee logo. Britain's #1 honey brand, found in virtually every supermarket in the country. But turn that bottle around and read what it actually says. Blend of non-EU honeys. That single phrase should set off alarm bells. It means the honey inside could come from anywhere on Earth. China, Vietnam, Turkey, and you'd never know. No country named, no region identified, no beekeeper you can trace. Rowse claims their honey is triple tested and 100% pure. But here's what they don't tell you. Reports suggest Rowse may have stopped purchasing honey from British beekeepers entirely. The very company that built its reputation on British honey now sources globally from, in their own words, all major honey-producing continents, including Asia. And when 77% of UK honey imports come from China and 74% of Chinese honey is suspected fraudulent, that blend of non-EU honeys label starts to look very different. The price tells its own story. Rowse British Oxfordshire Wildflower costs £2 per 100 grams. Their blended honey, just 58 pence per 100 grams. That's more than 3 times cheaper. Ask yourself, how can one honey cost a third of another from the same company? The answer isn't efficiency. It's what's actually in the jar. And if Britain's biggest honey brand can't guarantee what's inside their best-selling products, what about the supermarket-owned brands millions of families trust every week? The next one might already be in your kitchen. 2. Tesco Clear Honey. And their clear honey sits on shelves in thousands of stores, bought by families who assume the Tesco name means quality. But when researchers tested supermarket-owned brand honeys using over 240 tests per sample, Tesco Clear Honey was specifically named among those that failed. The tests detected psychose, a sugar that does not exist naturally in real honey. Its presence is a direct marker of syrup adulteration. They also found enzyme signatures. When confronted with the evidence, Tesco acknowledged that a more transparent honey testing regime was required. Read that again. Britain's biggest supermarket admitted their testing wasn't good enough. Yet the same honey remains on shelves today, still labelled pure, still bought by millions who have no idea what independent laboratories found inside. The label says pure, the science says otherwise. And if Tesco's honey raised red flags, what about their biggest rival, just down the high street? 3. Sainsbury's Clear Honey. Sainsbury's positions itself as the quality alternative, the supermarket for shoppers who care about what they eat. Their honey carries the same reassuring, pure label you'd expect. But in the same investigation that flagged Tesco, Sainsbury's Clear Honey was also named among products showing markers of adulteration. The tests revealed enzyme signatures consistent with syrup extension, not the natural enzymes you'd find in genuine honey, but patterns that suggest processing and dilution designed to stretch real honey further while keeping costs down. Sainsbury's Taste the Difference range commands premium prices, but their standard clear honey follows the same blend of EU and non-EU honeys formula that allows untraceable origins and unverifiable quality. Premium branding doesn't guarantee premium honey. Sometimes it just means premium profit margins on the same questionable product. And speaking of value propositions, Asda's promise to British families is simple: save money every day. But what exactly are you saving when you buy their honey? 4. Asda Set Pure Honey. Asda built its brand on being the affordable choice for hard-working families watching every penny. Their Set Pure Honey costs less than many competitors. The label proudly says pure. But that word means nothing without testing to back it up. Independent analysis specifically named Asda Set Pure Honey among supermarket products containing psychos, that telltale marker of sugar syrup adulteration. The same tests found enzyme irregularities, suggesting the product had been extended with cheap sweeteners. Here's what makes this particularly troubling. Asda shoppers are often families on tight budgets, people who can least afford to waste money on products that aren't what they claim to be. They're paying for honey and receiving something else entirely. The savings on the receipt are an illusion when the jar contains diluted product. You're not getting value, you're getting less honey for your money, stretched with syrups that cost a fraction of the real thing. And Asda isn't alone among budget-friendly options. The Co-op has built decades of trust as the ethical choice, but their honey tells a different story. 5. Co-op Clear Honey. The cooperative has positioned itself as the supermarket with principles: fair trade, ethical sourcing, community values. But Co-op Clear Honey appeared in the same investigation that exposed the other major supermarkets. Testing revealed the same markers: psychose contamination, enzyme irregularities, signatures of syrup adulteration. 9 out of 13 supermarket own-brand honeys tested contained psychose. 10 out of 13 showed enzyme markers indicating adulteration with inverted syrup. The Co-op was among them. Ethical branding and actual product quality are two very different things. You can have values printed on your website and still sell honey that fails laboratory analysis. The question isn't whether supermarkets mean well, it's whether their supply chains can actually deliver genuine honey when the global market is flooded with sophisticated fakes and the profit incentive to cut corners is enormous. If the ethical supermarket can't guarantee authentic honey, what about the discount chains, where price is everything? 6. Aldi Bramwell's Honey. Aldi's promise is simple: same quality, lower prices. Their Bramwell's honey range sits alongside branded competitors at a fraction of the cost. It sounds like a smart choice for budget-conscious shoppers, but there's a price point where the mathematics simply cannot work. When you see honey selling for 75 pence a jar, you're not looking at a bargain, you're looking at a warning sign. Real honey costs approximately £3.50 per kilogram at wholesale minimum. That's the floor for genuine product. Rice syrup, the adulterant of choice because it evades standard testing, costs just 40 to 60 pence per kilogram. Do the maths. At 75 pence retail, after packaging, transport and retailer margins, what could possibly be left for actual honey? As master beekeeper Lynn Ingram bluntly states, if you see honey for as little as 75p a jar, it's too good to be true. Aldi's Bramwell's honey carries the familiar blend of EU and non-EU honeys label. No countries named, no traceability, no way to verify what's actually inside. The discount isn't a miracle of efficiency, it's a reflection of what you're actually buying. And Aldi's German rival follows exactly the same playbook. 7. Lidl Blossom Honey. Lidl and Aldi compete head-to-head on price, and their honey strategies are virtually identical. Lidl's Blossom Honey sits at similar rock-bottom prices with the same blend of non-EU honeys labelling that hides the true origin of what's inside. The discount supermarket model depends on ruthless cost-cutting, and when 77% of UK honey imports come from China at just £1.08 per kilogram versus £19 per kilogram for quality manuka, the sourcing decisions write themselves. These aren't bad businesses, they're rational businesses operating in a market where adulterated honey is cheaper, harder to detect, and faces virtually no enforcement. The problem isn't the supermarkets, it's the system that allows fraudulent honey to flood British shelves while regulators look the other way. 8. Morrison's own brand honey. Their honey range includes everything from budget basics to premium options. But flip those jars around and you'll find the same story. Blend of EU and non-EU honeys. No countries specified, no percentages given, no traceability to any specific source. The EU passed new regulations in 2024 requiring exact country of origin labelling with percentages in descending order. France, Germany and Spain must now tell consumers precisely where their honey originates. Britain left before those protections took effect. Our labels can still hide everything behind that vague blend wording. Morrison's could voluntarily adopt transparent labelling. They could name their source countries and percentages. They choose not to. When a company can tell you exactly where their beef comes from, which farm raised their chickens, but won't identify the countries in their honey, you have to ask why. The answer usually involves supply chains that wouldn't survive scrutiny. Now, let's talk about a category that might surprise you. 9. Holland and Barrett Manuka honey. Holland and Barrett is Britain's trusted health food retailer. When you walk into their stores, you expect products that actually deliver on their wellness promises. Their Manuka honey sits in prominent displays, commanding premium prices of £20 to £60 per jar. But Manuka honey has a mathematics problem that should concern every buyer. New Zealand produces just 1,700 tonnes of genuine Manuka honey each year. Yet approximately 10,000 tonnes are sold globally. As Australian beekeepers note, 10 times more Manuka honey is sold in the world than is produced. When researchers tested Manuka products sold in the UK, only 1 in 7 was authentic. That's a mere 14% genuineness rate for a product selling at premium prices. The UMF and MGO ratings that supposedly guarantee quality can be manipulated. Synthetic methyl glyoxal can be added to boost MGO readings artificially. Without rigorous third-party verification, that expensive jar of Manuka might contain ordinary honey with added chemicals. You're paying £40 or more for what you believe is medicinal-grade honey with unique antibacterial properties. But if only 14% of tested products were genuine, you're probably paying premium prices for standard honey with a premium label. The trust you place in health food retailers isn't matched by the supply chain reality. And speaking of trusted health retailers, pharmacies might seem like safe havens for genuine products. 10. Boots own brand honey. The pharmacy setting creates a powerful assumption of quality that the product itself may not deserve. You wouldn't expect a pharmacy to sell fake vitamins, so you don't question whether their honey is real. But the honey section isn't regulated like the pharmacy counter. There's no pharmacist checking authenticity, there's no controlled supply chain. There's just the same blend of EU and non-EU honeys appearing on pharmacy shelves as supermarket shelves. The white coat and the clean aisles create an illusion of medical-grade quality. But the jar contains whatever the global honey market supplied, subject to the same 100% failure rate in EU testing as every other British honey sample. Trust should be earned, not assumed, from the retail environment. 11. Gales Honey. Gales has been a household name in British honey for generations. The brand recognition runs deep. Your parents probably bought Gales. Your grandparents certainly did. But heritage branding and current product quality are two very different things. Today's Gales honey follows the same patterns as every other mass-market brand: blended origins, untraceable supply chains, prices that suggest adulteration is the only way the economics can work. The squeeze bottles and familiar packaging create nostalgia, but the product inside has evolved, along with the global honey fraud epidemic. What was genuine honey decades ago may now be the same adulterated blend flooding every other British brand. Legacy means nothing when supply chains change. The Gales your grandmother trusted isn't necessarily the Gales on shelves today. 12. Iceland Clear Honey. Iceland built its reputation as the freezer specialist, serving British families on budgets. Their honey isn't a flagship product, it's just another grocery item, priced to move, sourced to maximize margins. At Iceland's price points, the same mathematical impossibility applies. Genuine honey cannot reach retail shelves at these prices after all costs are covered. Something has to give, and that something is authenticity. The investigation that found 96% of supermarket honey suspicious didn't distinguish between premium retailers and budget chains. The contamination is market-wide. Iceland operates in that same contaminated market with the same contaminated supply chains. Budget retailers aren't villains. They're responding to consumer demand for lower prices. But lower prices funded by adulteration aren't savings. They're fraud transferred from the supply chain to your kitchen cupboard. But you don't have to wait for regulators. Here are the 5 trustworthy honey brands. For guaranteed British honey, the London Honey Company sets the standard. Every jar contains 100% British honey, sourced from over 500 apiaries across the United Kingdom. Their honey is unpasteurized and cold-filtered, preserving the natural enzymes, pollen, and beneficial compounds that fake honey destroys through ultra-processing. They never blend with imported product. At £8 to £10 per 250 grams, the price reflects what genuine British honey actually costs to produce. Remember, UK beekeepers can't compete with £1.08 per kilogram Chinese imports on price. They can only compete on authenticity. You'll find London Honey Company at John Lewis, Abel & Cole, Fortnum & Mason, and their own website. When the jar costs what real honey should cost, you know you're buying the real thing. 3. Chainbridge Honey Farm. Operating since 1948 near the Scottish border in Northumberland, Chainbridge Honey Farm represents British beekeeping heritage done right. They produce honey from 1,500 to 1,800 of their own hives, not sourced globally, not blended anonymously. Their own bees, their own apiaries, complete traceability guaranteed. This is what honey looked like before global supply chains made fraud profitable. A family operation, decades of expertise, and absolute certainty about what's in every jar. You can visit the farm, see the bees, and meet the beekeepers. Try doing that with a blend of non-EU honeys. 4. Black Bee Honey. Black Bee Honey has earned B Corp certification while focusing exclusively on single-origin British honey. No blending, no anonymous imports. Every jar traces to a specific British location. They direct 2% of their turnover to creating wildflower meadows for bees. They're not just selling honey, they're actively supporting the British bee population that makes genuine honey possible. 5. Local BBKA beekeepers. The British Beekeepers Association represents over 30,000 members across the country. Many sell honey locally at farmers' markets, farm shops, and directly from their apiaries. Visit bbka.org.uk and use their Beekeeper Finder to locate producers near you. When you buy directly from a local beekeeper, you get absolute certainty about authenticity. You can meet the producer, you can see the hives, you can ask questions no supermarket could ever answer. Local honey also offers potential benefits for hay fever sufferers, as it contains pollen from plants in your specific area. That's impossible with imported blends that remove all pollen to hide their origin. The BBKA's chair put it simply: we will continue to champion the benefits of local honey in an era of increasing debate over the composition of imported honey. When the debate is this heated, the safest choice is the producer you can actually meet. Now, let me show you exactly how to protect yourself. Read the label like a detective. The single most important thing you can do takes 3 seconds. Flip the jar and find the origin statement. If it says, blend of EU and non-EU honeys, put it back. That phrase legally hides any country on Earth, including the 77% of UK imports that come from China. If it says, blend of non-EU honeys, that's even worse. It might as well say, origin unknown, possibly fraudulent. What you want to see: a specific country. Better yet, a specific region. Best of all, a specific beekeeper or apiary you can actually verify. Product of UK means British bees and British production. That's trustworthy. Packed in UK means absolutely nothing. Only the packaging happened here. The honey could come from anywhere. The price test. Real honey has a floor price that genuine products cannot go below. Wholesale honey costs approximately £3.50 per kilogram minimum. After packaging, transport, retailer margins and profit, genuine honey cannot reach retail shelves below about £5 per kilogram. When you see 340 grams jars for 75 pence, the mathematics doesn't work. Something other than honey is filling that jar. Use this rule of thumb. Genuine British honey costs £8 or more per standard jar. Quality single origin imports cost £5 to £8. Anything under £2 almost certainly indicates adulteration. The discount isn't a bargain, it's a warning. The clarity test. Look at the honey through the jar. Real honey isn't perfectly clear. It often has slight cloudiness from natural pollen and tiny particles of beeswax. The colour can vary from pale gold to deep amber, depending on what flowers the bees visited. Fake or ultra-filtered honey is crystal clear, uniform colour, almost glassy appearance. That unnatural clarity means it's been processed. When honey looks too perfect, it probably isn't real. The crystallization test. Put your honey jar in the refrigerator for several days. Watch what happens. Real honey crystallizes naturally. It forms fine, uniform crystals, almost like soft granulated sugar. This is normal and actually indicates authentic product. Fake honey, especially honey extended with corn or rice syrup, often won't crystallize at all, or it separates into a watery layer on top and a sugary layer below, or it forms coarse, clumpy crystals, very different from natural crystallization. If your honey stays perfectly liquid and runny in the fridge for weeks, that's suspicious. Real honey thickens and crystallizes over time. The water test. Drop a spoonful of honey into a glass of room temperature water. Don't stir. Real honey sinks straight to the bottom and stays together in a mass. It won't dissolve immediately. If you gently swirl the water, genuine honey still dissolves very slowly. Fake or syrup-extended honey dissolves quickly. It spreads through the water, creating sugary streaks. It behaves like the sugar syrup it actually is. The spoon test. Dip a spoon into the honey and lift it up slowly. Watch how it falls. Real honey is thick and viscous. It forms a continuous thread or ribbon that may curl at the end before breaking. It flows slowly and holds together. Fake honey is thinner and runnier. It breaks into droplets immediately and falls straight down like commercial syrup. The paper test. Put a drop of honey on a paper towel or plain white napkin. Wait 1 minute. Pure honey is thick and will hold its shape. It barely soaks through, if at all. Diluted honey with high water content spreads rapidly. It seeps into the paper, leaving a noticeable wet ring. If the honey soaks straight through and spreads like water, it's not pure. Every time you pick up a jar labelled blend of EU and non-EU honeys, you're gambling. And the odds say you're losing. But now you know what to look for. You know which brands have failed the tests. You know which producers you can actually trust. You know the price points where genuine honey is possible and where it isn't. The regulators aren't protecting you. The supermarkets aren't protecting you. The global supply chain certainly isn't protecting you. But you can protect yourself. Buy from producers you can verify. Pay what real honey actually costs. Read the labels that hide the truth. Real honey is worth finding. It contains enzymes, antioxidants, and beneficial compounds that fake honey destroys. It supports British beekeepers instead of fraudulent import operations. Which one surprised you the most? Drop your experience in the comments. And if you want to watch a video like this one, click the video on the screen. Thanks for watching.